welcome back to Mega Music Memories, the podcast that remembers and celebrates the unsung heroes of pop and dance from yesteryear who've earned permanent places in our hearts with their epic music. My name is Matt Gibson. Join me as I interview artists from the 90s and noughties who, in my view, don't always get the plaudits they deserve for the amazing music they made and the magical memories they've given to us fans. If you're a nostalgia nerd, subscribe and stay tuned as we continue our journey looking back at an awesome era. If you love pop, if you love nostalgia, and enjoy hearing your favourite old school artists reflecting on their careers and giving us the lowdown on what they're doing now, you're in the right place. So buckle up, because we've got some serious reminiscing to do. Thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Mega Music Memories. On today's podcast, we'll be hearing from the Queen of Rave, Rozalla, who's most well known for her epic global dance anthem, Everybody's Free to Feel Good, which was a smash hit all around the world in 1991 and is still adored and revered today for its powerful feel-good message and ability to transform any dance floor in any nightclub into a sea of euphoria. Now, before we get to my chat with Rozalla, I quickly want to thank everyone who's given Mega Music Memories a positive rating wherever you listen to us, and those of you who have left a positive review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Those positive ratings and reviews help us to get noticed by more people. So, if you're enjoying my interviews and you haven't done so already, please help me out by leaving a positive review. I assure you they'll all be very gratefully received. Now, on to today's guest, Rozalla, who's had 8 top 40 hits in the UK and was the support act for none other than Michael Jackson on the European leg of his Dangerous tour in 1992. It was an absolute delight speaking with Rozalla. She tells us about her early life growing up in Africa, the mind-blowing success of Everybody's Free to Feel Good, what it was like to be on tour with Michael Jackson, and she also talks to us about the new music she's released in recent years and her new album, which is coming out later this year. Rozalla also regales us with some brilliant anecdotes from her career about real A-list superstars, including Al Pacino, Liz Taylor and Diana Ross, to name just 3. Now, I was privileged to be joined by Rozalla, not least because she's an incredibly busy woman, and anyone who looks at her social media will see she's very much in demand and gigging constantly at the moment. So, I started the interview by asking Rozalla how she's finding it being back on the road again after lockdown.
It's been surreal. You know, I've always been one person that's practiced, being grateful and, having my gigs and going, I get paid to do this, that sort of thing. And then, of course, when, everything went literally quiet after the lockdowns, I remember counting last year, January, that I had about 70 gigs in my diary for across the year. And, hopefully with more being added. And, I thought that's quite a lot. I'm doing good here. By the end of the year, I could top 100 gigs, which is, all gone. And that was a shocker, because that's how myself and my other colleagues who, do what we do, going up to perform live, that's how we earn our living. So that was a bit of a shocker. And then when I remember I did the first gig, it was Lee Butler, who is a respected DJ in Liverpool. Has always been my number one fan from the early days. And till today, he books me and does gigs with me. He booked me my first gig in Liverpool. And it was so surreal because it was still a case of, the punters that were there had to stay at the table. They weren't allowed to dance, or at least dance around the tables. And, when you've got a bit of drink in you and everything's flowing and the friendship and the laughter and Everybody's Free comes on, it's that type of song that you can't help but sing along to. A few people ran in front of the stage and the dance floor, and they're telling me, don't sing, don't encourage him. And I'm going, how do I do that? But it was such a brilliant night. Everybody knew what, they had to do. I was so nervous, but it was just amazing just to get back out there and start performing.
Yeah, fantastic. And not only are you back touring, but you're signed to Energize Records with the likes of previous guests on this podcast, Nikki French and Tight Fits. How does it feel to be releasing new material again, Rozalla?
I'm so excited. I'm so, again, that word which I love, grateful that I've got the opportunity to release new material. I think my last recording material-wise was 2008, 2009 with the Brand New Version album. And in between then, I've released, singles. I did a duet with Alan J, Breaking My Heart, which was brilliant. And then, Gary spoke to me and is like, you got to release new material, come back into the studio. And I'm like, yeah, well, why not, And Gary really believes in me, Gary Simmons, bless him. Mwah, that's for him. And we were just talking yesterday. He called me and we've got one more track left to record for the album. And there's another track that I need to fix because I sung a bum note and they used that bum note in the remix. So it's really bothered me. So I want to fix that. But and then we've got an album. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited.
So am I. Yeah, I can't wait. Now let's talk about your most recent single, I Want You Back, which you co-wrote, and it finally got released in September last year, didn't it? But it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? You started working on it back in 2018, I believe, didn't you?
That's right. That was a real surprise because I was invited down to Belgium to what they call a songwriting factory, I suppose. There were about 20 other people or more from all parts of the world. And they put me with two guys called Goose and Yannick, who are very talented musicians, songwriters, DJs. So they hear music. And, it's nothing I've ever done in my life. And I just thought nothing ventured, nothing gained. And they were eager to get me there. So, I got to co-write in this song with Yannick and Goose and just playing around. And the song came about and, they like, come back to Belgium again and we'll do a proper recording of it. And a few weeks later, I went down to Goose, who's got a studio in his house, and we did that. And we forgot about it. I certainly forgot about it. That was 2018. We're now, 2021 now, but 2021 last year, they got in contact with me, Luke Standard from the publishers, and like, this is a really good song. We got to release it. And I said, but that was 2018. I've now got a record deal and I've got something else going on and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I got him in contact with Gary and Gary listened to the song and he really liked it. And he's like, we could add it to the album as well because we're still looking for tracks as well, So we thought, yeah, okay, why not? And Gary and I have been really shocked at the success that I Want You Back has had, as far as radio play, the charts here and there. It might not have crossed over commercially, like it used to in the old days, but so much has changed. So much has changed. And for me, it created the success I didn't think it would. And I think it's a good song. And of course, the additional remixes are just brilliant. I mean, they take the song to a different level. And I think, is that the same song? So, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I love it. As you say, there's a bunch of different mixes. And I think what I really like about all those different mixes is they sort of cater really well for all of your dance music fans. because
Yes.
obviously you're Rozalla, you're the Queen of Rave. So while the original radio mix is kind of relatively chilled out and laid back, the mixes really kind of step the energy levels up, and I'm a big fan of a couple of the different the Doganov remix.
Yeah, that seems to be a favorite.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite version of all those different mixes?
There's the Frank Blythe, which I really like, which is very soulful. I really, really love that. And the Doganov, I love that. That is just out there.
Yeah.
That is really out there. When I first heard it, I went, whoa, wow. This isn't very Rozalla, but that's what I like about my music. You know, once to give my vocal stems to remixes, you know, we give them the free rein to do what they hear with the song. And it's really been interesting. It's really been just so much fun.
They say I keep telling myself I'm so tired of fuss and fighting, 'cause it's bringing us down. Let's break away. Let's break away. Oh, I want you back now, back in my life, for the good, for the bad. We can survive, no holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back. There's no holding back. Let's go back to the beginning, when you first laid eyes on me. You made me feel like I was stronger, made me leave the pain behind. Do you remember that feeling of belonging inside? So powerful, indestructible, almost invincible. Let's be good for each other and keep this love alive. We're in this thing together, and I'm on your side forever. Oh, I want you back now, back in my life, for the good, for the bad. We can survive, no holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back. There's no holding back. I want you back now, back in my life, for the good, for the bad. We can survive, no holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back. There's no holding back. There's no holding back. No holding back. I want you back, back, back now.
Well, we'll be playing them throughout the podcasts for everyone to
Thank you.
hear. And so I think I Want You Back has what I think all your music has, which is kind of positivity and uplifting lyrics.
That's right.
Kind of your trademark, isn't it? Really? Would
It
it
is.
would it be fair to say that's something you've always kind of strived to achieve with your music?
Certainly from the Everybody's Free days, if you listen to the whole album of Everybody's Free, that whole album is, every lyric is so positive, you know, and at that time, you know, when I was much, much younger, I didn't want to do an album that was talking about breakdowns, relationships, this and that, which are all real things that happen in life, but I didn't want that on that album. As I've grown older and as I've matured and experienced, love and watched my friends fall in and out of love, or, watch life, basically. So I Want You Back is a song about making up and breaking up, really. And it takes two to build a relationship and one to break it down. So basically, this song is talking about that. Look, this is what's happening. I still love you, but I want you back, and there's a chance for us to make it. So it's real life, Matt. It's what we all go through. It's what we know of others that go through, and we're all adults. So, Matt, Yannick, and Gus and I thought, we're all grown ups. Let's talk about a grown up subject, or let's write about it, and that's how I Want You Back came about.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm waiting for no one. They say I keep telling myself I'm so tired of fussing, fighting, 'cause it's bringing us down. Let's break away. Let's break away. I want you back now, back in my life, for the good, for the bad. We can't survive, no holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back. There's no holding back. Let's go back to the beginning, when you first laid eyes on me. You made me feel like I was stronger. Baby, leave the pain behind. Do you remember that feeling of belonging inside? So powerful, indestructible, almost invincible. Let's be good for each other and keep this love alive. We're in this thing together, and I'm on your side forever. I want you back now, back in my life, for the good, for the bad. We can't survive, no holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back. There's no holding back. I want you back now, back in my life, for the good, for the bad. We can't survive, no holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back. There's no holding back.
So, Rozalla, can I take you all the way back now to the very beginning, if you don't mind, back to your childhood? Now, now, I know you moved to Zimbabwe when you were a teenager, but you were born and raised in Zambia. Now, what was it like for you growing up as a young child there?
I had a happy childhood. I loved growing up in Zambia. My grandparents raised me because my mom was a very young mom, and then, of course, when my mom had her, I guess you could say, her act together, work, her own home, she got me to go back and live with her. And, thereafter we moved to Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe is a beautiful country as well, and so the way I see it, I spent my formative years in Zimbabwe, and that's where my career really began to take off. So yeah. I had a happy childhood, yeah, and teenage childhood as well, yes.
But my favourite version of Everybody's Free is the mix. I think it's called the original mix. It's about 6.5 minutes long, and it's the one that's got some spoken word over it at the beginning in another language. Now, is that Bemba?
Yes, that's Bemba. I was born in Ndola in Zambia, and Ndola is known to be the Bemba-speaking city. And Lusaka,
is that the kind of like a Zambian language? Bemba,
yes, that's a Zambian language. Zambia, I believe, has 72 different dialects across the whole country. So don't even ask me. But I know that Ndola was Bemba speaking. Lusaka, where my grandmother comes from, she comes from Chipata, is Nyanja speaking. So I started learning a bit of Bemba growing up in Ndola, and then we moved to Lusaka, that was Nyanja, so I started mixing the two languages together, and then we moved to Zimbabwe, which is a totally different language. That's Shona, but all these countries, their first language, apart from their mother tongues, was English. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just sticking to English now. This is just getting too mixed up for me. And years later in my adult life, I really regret it. I really regret it, because I just think, you know, to all parents who are listening to this interview today, other than the first language that your child might speak, or even you yourself, learn another language, especially when you're a child. I think your brain is more like a sponge. You know,
I think that's right. I think it is. I think that's been proven even. Yeah.
Exactly. So I regret that. And my brothers all speak fluent Shona, and I just get very jealous of them. So there you go.
Do you recall what's being said at the beginning of that version in Bemba?
Do I what? Sorry.
Do you recall what's being said? You know, in those.
Yes. It means we are all together in this world, going across together, brothers and sisters. Together we'll make it through.
Brilliant. But again, it just slots right in, doesn't it, to your kind of positive lyrics?
Yeah, definitely. My friend, I have to say, my friend Frida Thiel, she speaks Bemba fluently, so she was in the studio with me making sure I pronounced it. I pronounced it correctly. So, you know, she was there and she really helped me. So, yeah, if I pronounce anything wrong now, she will probably be right. But there you go. She was a help.
Now, just before you moved to Zimbabwe, and I know you started appearing on children's TV shows over in Zambia when you were a young girl. How did you get started doing that?
All my life, I just knew I wanted to be a singer. You know, I used to tell my mom and dad till I was blue in the face, this is what I want to do. And my dad helped me. He knew someone at the TV studios that was doing a children's program. And he said, look, my daughter sings. Can you get her onto this children's program? And they had me go on this children's program, and I sang a song. And I was like, this was my first time ever being in a TV studio and seeing how these cameras and these lights work. And I just thought, I'm home. This is really what I want to do. So that was my first taste into it. And then when I was 14, my dad knew a band member that used to play at the Hotel Intercontinental in Lusaka. And he's like, my daughter would love to perform with you guys. And they're like, you know, they offered me a 2-week stint to perform, I think it was 3 or 4 songs, maybe 30-minute set, I can't remember, of cover songs every night for 2 weeks at the Hotel Intercontinental. But because I was underage, they didn't advertise me, you know. And here I was, this 14-year-old girl, singing to all these adults having their dinner. And I just was a nervous wreck, but the opportunity was just so wonderful. And my dad would take me there every night, and then school the next morning. And, you know, my father's not with us anymore, but he believed in me from the word go.
Oh. And then when you moved to Zimbabwe, which is where your dad was from, your career to continue to develop from there, you joined a band called Grab, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the band leader, his name was Boyki. And Grab, the name Grab comes from the beginning of the letters of all our names. So right. G was Gabby, R was Rozalla, A was Andy, and B was Boyki. And Boyki, you know, again, through one of my aunts, who he was friends with, her, there was a good singer in Zambia, moving to Zimbabwe. He met with my parents and he said, I heard your daughter's a good singer. I'm forming a band. I'd love her to be the lead singer. And I'm like, wow, what an opportunity. So I joined this band and we were traveling around the country, doing cover songs by other artists. You know, we were doing rehearsals about 2-3 days a week. So in some ways, that was like an apprenticeship for me to see how this industry works. And going to rehearsals, I loved, but I didn't enjoy. You know, because it was again and again and again, but it was all interesting. Traveling around Zimbabwe, performing at different venues, doing cover songs, which I absolutely loved, and I loved the guys. But it also quickly made me realize that it's not something I want to do for the rest of my life, singing in a band, doing cover songs. I'd like to release material under my own name and release material that's my own rather than cover songs, you know. And then I noted there was a talent competition going through. You know, when I look back at my life, it's like when you put things out there in life, Matt, it doesn't always happen, but when you do, somehow, some way, it crosses your path, so I'm thinking all these thoughts, and I'm thinking, I want to record my own material. I do a talent contest and I won it, and the prize was a record deal with the record company. So the rest is history.
Yeah, that was the Golden Voice, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's right. The talent contest. Yeah. So at this point, you were a pretty big star in Zimbabwe, weren't you? And you went on to have, I believe, 5 #1 singles there.
Yes.
Now, I'm quite curious to find out a little bit more about your music in this kind of really early stage of your career. I know there was a song called Party Nights, I think.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was written for you by the Vasiki brothers.
That's right.
I believe were quite successful in Zimbabwe at the time.
Yes.
You're known for dance music now. Were you releasing predominantly dance music back then in Zimbabwe as well, or were you working on a variety of different sort of music?
It was a variety. I mean, you could say it was a variety because we released Party Nights, which was, you could say dance music. And then we released a ballad called Forever, which is such a beautiful song. And in fact, I think, I spoke to the Rusiki brothers. It was AB who wrote it for me. I'd love to redo that song one day for one of my albums. And so it was a mixture of both dance and ballads. And then of course I had opportunity to record videos for these songs in Zimbabwe. And, when I look back at it and when I think about it, there were people in Zimbabwe that, when I went to the TV stations or to the radio, there was always someone in there that believed in me. I had Danford Denga, who worked at ZBC, loved my songs, helped me do videos, something I'd never ever known about, so I did videos with him. I had John Matindi, who was one of the big time DJs for Radio 3, which was the biggest radio station at the time in Zimbabwe. He played all my tracks, and then of course all the other DJs got on board and supported me. And it became like this network of people that believed in me, including the record label, Grammar Records. And I felt I'd gotten as far as I could in Zimbabwe. And Grammar Records believed in me so much, and so did John Matindi, that when an English producer came down to Zimbabwe, watched one of my videos on TV, he was on holiday, he spoke to John Matindi and said, who's that girl? I've got a studio in Wolverhampton. I'd love her to come down and try out something. And Grammar Records, I told them about it. We met, and I had no money whatsoever, and Grammar Records bought me my first 2 or 3 air tickets to come to the UK to record in the studio in Wolverhampton and send round, at the time it was cassettes, to record labels trying to get a deal, and it was a case of, we love her voice. And then in the same breath, oh no, we can't sign her and blah, blah, blah. So I went through a lot of that, and whatever material I recorded, we put into an album and we released it in Zimbabwe and South Africa. And so my first album, which is very unknown to everybody, is called Spirit of Africa. That was my first album I ever did. But then, one of those songs fell on the laps of the band of gypsies, Tim and Nigel, and the rest is history. Yeah. Because
as you say, like, being a successful recording artist in Zimbabwe at that time certainly isn't the same as being a big star in Europe or the US, is it? Because you were still working as a secretary, weren't you? And
that's right. I still had to
you'd had #1 singles under your belt and so on. So as you say, you persisted, and from that persistence, you got heard by Nigel Swanston and Tim Cox, the band of gypsies, as you say. What can you tell us about who those guys were and where you all went from there?
Oh, all I can say is, Tim and Nigel were my angels. They believed in me. They loved my voice. We had a few meetings about the style of music and direction I wanted to go in, and what I wanted to portray lyrically, and I said I wanted, lyrics that were positive. Therefore, if you listen to the whole album, including the title track, Everybody's Free to Feel Good, just transcends to everyone all over the world. And, you know, we did this album together, and Tim and I are still in contact. Nigel's taken a breather, I believe, from the music industry, but we're all still in contact. And we actually went on years later to record another album together called Coming Home, you know, and I co-wrote quite a few tracks on there, and Tim and Nigel produced that and co-wrote some songs as well. So, you know, but as life goes on, you meet new people, you record with different people, and this is where we are. Yeah.
Now, before you released Everybody's Free to Feel Good, you released a track called Born to Love You. It was around 1990, I think, which was doing really well in the clubs, but that wasn't really translated into chart success. And
yeah,
I think around this time, I understand you're traveling back and forth between Zimbabwe and the UK quite a lot. It seems like a very sort of uncertain time to me. What was that like for you, and how did you sort of cope with that kind of uncertainty?
Yeah, it's right. It was uncertain because I'm thinking, you know, I'm away from home. I'm away from my family. You know, do I really want to live in this country? It's cold. and above all, it's being away from family. You know what you know. You know, then of course, Born to Love You was released. It didn't cross over commercially, but it became an underground club hit, you know, massive. And I remember being told my fans didn't want me to become, you know, a commercial success. They wanted me to remain on the underground world, which I was like, that's fine, guys, but you know what? I need to earn a living, so I can't remain on the underground scene forever. I really wanted to break out and become commercial. So it was traveling back and forth to Zimbabwe, just seeing how things go. And we were happy where Born to Love You was headed at that time. But it wasn't a career breaking opportunity for me at the time. And then, of course, I think we released, it was Faith in the Power of Love. And that went top 75. So that gave me some sort of direction that, you know what, let me try and stick it out in this country and see where it goes to. And of course, the people I was working around really believed in me. And they're like, you know, just stick it out, Rozalla. We know you're homesick. We know you're missing family. You know, Faith and Power of Love happened. And then, of course, I started going around doing club dates, promoting the song. And that was another eye-opener for me, you know. So I knew, just let me go with this flow and see where it goes to. And then, of course, Everybody's Free was released after that. And that just
exploded.
That just exploded. And then it became apparently quickly to me that if I moved back to Zimbabwe, you know, because then I was traveling to Europe, which could be an hour to 2 hours flight. I couldn't do that from Zimbabwe. You know, I could travel to Spain or Ibiza or Germany for a 2-hour flight or whatever in the morning, do a gig and fly back the next morning. I possibly couldn't do that from living in Zimbabwe. So they said, you know, think about this, just go with the flow. And over 30 years later, I'm still living in this country.
Well, we're so pleased to have you. We're blessed.
Well, I am too.
Now, what can you remember about the recording session for Everybody's Free, which was obviously, as we know, the track that changed everything for you?
Oh, gosh. I remember, you know, going to the studio, and I used to laugh at Nigel because he used to read these novels. I think it was, I can't remember the man's full name, Pritchard or something like that. And
Harry
yeah, I think Harry Pritchard. So he wrote sort of a lot of sort of out there, you know, comical, mystical, you know, sort
Terry
of like
Pratchett, I think. Yeah.
Terry, that's him. And so Nigel used to read a lot of his novels, and Tim and I used to laugh at him and go, now we think we know where you get your lyrics from. You know, they're very sort of out there and very, very happy, very positive. And Nigel's like, Rozalla, I've got this instrumentation, you know, him and Tim. What do you think of it? And I loved what I heard, which was to become Everybody's Free, the musical instrumentation of that. And then Nigel said, look, go into the studio and sing this line, Everybody's Free to Feel Good. Just sing it. And we were trying different melodies, and I was throwing out melodies. Tim was giving me ideas, so was Nigel. And I'm singing, everybody's free to feel good, and just trying different ways of doing it. And we got a chorus eventually. And Nigel said, we've got the chorus. You stop there. We got the chorus. Let me now write the verses, to, follow with the chorus. And that's how Everybody's Free came to be.
Mm. Now, Everybody's Free was of course taken from the album, which was also called Everybody's Free.
Yeah.
So was there always then like a kind of feeling from yourself and everyone else involved that was the one track that you had the highest hopes for, or did its huge success just take you by surprise?
Oh, honestly, we didn't know. As when as an artist, even till today, you have an idea if a song is stronger or weaker than the other songs. But every song I feel is a good song. Like for instance, coming forward many years later, I Want You Back. I didn't think that was a very strong song, to all the other songs I've recorded. And in fact, I was a little bit nervous because the original recording of I Want You Back is very sort of mid-tempo. It's not dance music at all.
Yeah.
But I was excited because I believe I've got so many different facets to my singing.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it released. And then, of course, you got the additional remixes. So going back to Everybody's Free and that whole album, we just thought all the songs were great.
Mm.
I wouldn't even begin to tell you if Everybody's Free would have had the success it has now that it did then, because I thought Faith in the Power of Love was a stronger song than Everybody's Free. For instance,
Right.
I have a lot of people who prefer Are You Ready to Fly, that they think is stronger than Everybody's Free. So what that tells me, Matt, whatever songs are out there, it's going to touch someone more than it will touch someone else.
Yeah.
Once it's out there, it's out of your hands.
Mm. Yeah. So Everybody's Free exploded, peaked at number 6 in the UK singles charts. It was top 10 hit all over Europe, number 1 on the Billboard dance chart in the US. So what was it like for you going from, as we discussed, this very uncertain place where you're not quite sure how things are going to pan out, to all of a sudden having this absolute monster hit on your hands?
Gosh, I just thought, well, I'm traveling so much to Europe, I'm promoting this. I think I got to live here because this is my dream. This is what I wanted, to release original songs under my name, Rozalla. And that was happening. My dream came alive, and my dad and my mom said to me, you got to give it a chance. See where this goes to. You started this ball rolling. You dreamt about it. This is what you've called into your life. You can't just leave it now, and I had a lot of people that invested time and effort into it. And it's what I wanted. It's what I called into my life. So the excitement was great, and it still is till today. And I just thought, just go with it, because this is what I wanted to do for my life as a career, and go on to record more songs and just sing and hopefully earn a living from it.
Yeah. And your schedule at the peak of Everybody's Free was just nuts, wasn't it? You were doing gigs and appearances all over the place. I think we're talking multiple gigs and appearances on the same night on some occasions. Were you able to take it in, or because it was so busy, did it kind of just sort of like pass you by to some extent?
Gosh, I was talking to someone about it recently. I did an interview, and she was actually an MTV host. And she said, because she was a big time MTV host at the time when MTV was massive, and she said when she looks back at it now, it's all a blur. She didn't really have the opportunity to enjoy it, interviewing all these big stars, these big artists. And she asked me, what was it like for you? And I think it was the same. It was a blur. It was exciting. I was traveling from one city to the next. I remember when I flew to Los Angeles for the first time, I was in a state of shock. I couldn't believe it. And they took me to the beach. And I remember, picking up some sand from the beach to put in a plastic bag to go, look, I was in LA and I got sand from the beach, where they have this massive Hollywood sign. And it was all so surreal. It all went so quickly. It went by so quickly. And before you know it, you're of a certain age. This has gone by. And I look back and I just think, wow, what a whirlwind. So what that also tells me is how quickly life goes by. So quickly. It waits for no one.
Yeah. So we've just got to try and take it in as best we can, really, I guess.
Yeah. As one saying has said, as you walk along your road, don't forget to smell the roses or whatever, Yeah. So
now you performed for the first time on Top of the Pops. I'm wondering what you can remember of that, and I'm guessing that the record company probably made you aware of the significance of performing on that show. But as someone who was born in Zambia, raised in Zambia, then Zimbabwe, did it feel like a big deal to you, or was it sort of just another performance in some ways?
They, believe me, they made me realize that is the one thing that made me realize what a big deal Top of the Pops was. I remember being told, if you have the opportunity to perform on Top of the Pops and you got a track, obviously you'd need to have a track in the charts. Your track is going to definitely go up a few notches, so I'm thinking, wow, well, everybody's free is in the chart, let's say it was at number 25 and I did Top of the Pops, and for sure it would go up by about 5, 6, 7, 8 places, who knows, it would definitely. And every time I did Top of the Pops and my tracks were in the top 40, they definitely went up a few notches. So it was a wonderful experience going to the TV studios and eating in the canteen, which I loved, and, waiting in the green room or having your own dressing room. And of course, having the opportunity to meet other artists that were performing on it. And one of them that springs to mind is Sting. He performed there when I did, one of my performances on Top of the Pops, and we were all waiting on the corridor, and I went up to greet him, and he was really, really nice. And I had my Kodak camera, and I'm like, do you mind if we take pictures? He's like, yeah, I don't mind. And we took pictures. When I got home, opened the camera to take the spool out, and there was nothing, no spool.
No.
I know, so yeah. So that's what happened. But I also got to meet, Mariah Carey, and I got pictures with her, and she was lovely. So it was just a wonderful experience. Wonderful.
Brilliant. Oh, sounds great. Now, Everybody's Free was taken to the hearts, in particular, of the LGBT plus community. When did you become aware of that, and what does that kind of mean to you as an artist?
Oh, it's a great honor, I have to say. And it became more apparent to me when I was doing, gay clubs and performing at the gay clubs. And when I'd go on and sing that song, the audience reaction was mind-blowing. Still is till today. It's been mind-blowing. And, I've had some of my gay fans and friends come up to me, at the time until today, that have said that song gave us the strength to come out and tell our parents we're gay. I've had straight people that have come out and have told me, it got me, into a good relationship, or it gave me the strength to leave a relationship, or whatever. I've had, people write to me and tell me, their family member loved the song so much that they played it at their wake, which has been, I've heard all sorts of things about the song, which has been happy and sad, but people have taken it in their way that has meant something to them in a positive way. That's what I picked up from it, though.
Yeah. Now, with some of the guests I've had on the podcast so far, I've asked them about cover versions, because some of them have covered some quite high-profile songs. With you, Rozalla, I want to sort of ask about the other side of that, because Everybody's Free has been covered quite a lot, hasn't it? Including by some big artists, Kylie Minogue, for instance.
Yeah.
And of course, it's been sampled as well, most notably in Baz Luhrmann's Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen. So, firstly, for a kind of layperson like myself, can you tell us, like, what happens when someone wants to cover a song? Like, what's the process? Like, who gets contacted and who gives permission, and do you have a say as an artist and stuff like that?
Yes, we do. For instance, if they want to use Everybody's Free for, I don't know, a TV show or a dance show, whatever, they would contact Tim, Nigel, and myself through our publishers, and our publishers would actually contact us and say, so and so want to use this remix for their TV show, and this is what they're offering. So that's how that comes about. You know, other people will go about it in a different way and maybe just sing it without any permission and release it, or use I think I have a vocal of it on YouTube that's been put out there that's a cappella. So you've got these underground people that are mixing it. So it's hard to keep track of it, you know. But having said that, though, you know, people like Kylie Minogue covering it, all these contestants on the X Factor or The Voice or whatever contestant shows I've noted over the years, Everybody's Free seems to be one of those songs that's chosen. Honestly, Matt, I feel so honored because I believe that is what continues to keep the profile of Everybody's Free raised. Honestly, and it touches my heart. Brilliant.
That's great. Now, my last question about Everybody's Free, we will move on from it after this. It's just, you know, what kind of relationship do you have with it now? Obviously, you're a hugely accomplished singer with a great voice, and you've recorded loads of other songs, and you've had success with other songs too. Have you ever felt kind of pigeonholed by Everybody's Free? Have you ever felt frustrated that one song hogs so much of the limelight, if you like?
There was a time when I felt that, when I'm thinking, you know, there are other songs that I do other than Everybody's Free, you know. And then I think it was the mid-90s or somewhere around there when the girl bands and the boy bands, you know, started happening. And then I was lucky if I had an offer of doing one club date in a period of 2 months, coming from doing 5 club dates in a day, you know, and of course that's how I earned my living. And all this started going by the wayside, and I'm thinking, you know, is this how my career ends? I was dropped by my label at the time, which was Sony, and things just started going the other side, you know, in a negative way. And I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, so all this was happening. I wasn't getting to sing my song or my songs as much as I'd wanted to. And I'm thinking, is this the end of my career? And so I kept with it because I still had people that believed in me. I believed in myself, but it was a tough period, you know. Then things began to pick up, and then things like I Love the 90s began to grow, you know, and it's now even bigger than ever, you know. And I just stuck with it, you know. And when I went back to doing my songs, including Everybody's Free, I just thought, you know what, this is my golden ticket. This is my golden passport. And if it's the only song that I'll ever sing, which I hope not, because it's not, and it's going to earn me a living, then fine, I'll do it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. And are there any songs in particular from your back catalogue that you'd encourage people to check out if for instance their only kind of knowledge of you is that one huge hit? Is there anything in particular that you're really proud of that you'd sort of signpost people to kind of go to, and or something that showcases like a different style of your vocal abilities and stuff like that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, my 2 albums, Look No Further, definitely, you know, that began to showcase my different styles of my voice ability, if you want, which had ballads, mid-tempos. I had the opportunity to do I Love Music for Carlito's Way, you know, yes. Met Al Pacino, which was incredible. And then I always wanted to do something that was sort of jazzy, not strictly jazz, but sort of that had a flavor of jazz. And I had the opportunity to record the Brand New Version album, which was 2008, 2009. That was my dream album, you know, and we even did a jazzy version of Everybody's Free on it, you know, because why not? And it's on there. And I'm very proud of that album. I did that with Simon Lowry and some members of Billy Ocean's band that played on it, and we did it live. We recorded the album live. It was all live instruments.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned I Love Music, which, as you say, was featured on the soundtrack of Carlito's Way. I'm curious about, similar to the kind of like covers thing, I'm curious about what happens when an artist's music features on a big film's soundtrack. So, like, do you get to go to the premiere? Do you get to meet the actors? Like, what happens?
Well, I had the opportunity to perform I Love Music at the premiere in New York. And I got a story to tell you. I used to work as a singer in a very posh Italian restaurant before Everybody's Free became a hit. But during that time, I was recording the album. And it was called Villa dei Cesari in Pimlico, London. Excuse me. And anyhow, so cut a long story short, Everybody's Free started breaking. So I left working at this place. And I remember the owner sitting me down. He was like a father figure. And he said, Rozalla, I'm very proud of you. If your music work industry career doesn't work out, always remember you've got a home here. And I thought, oh my gosh. Anyway, so fast forward many years later, Everybody's Free had happened. I recorded the Look No Further album for Sony. And I went to Villa dei Cesari with some friends on a Sunday night. And I was due to fly out to New York to perform at the premiere for Carlito's Way on a Wednesday. So I was excited to meet Al Pacino and all these, actors. And when I went to Villa dei Cesari on the Sunday night, I could not believe it, but Al Pacino was there with about 14 other friends. So I went over, struck up the nerve and introduced myself. And I told him I'm performing at the premiere at this theater. I did the I Love Music with Jelly Bean Benitez. So he looked at me and he thought, she must be telling the truth, because I had like some deep inside information. And he's like, everybody, this is Rozalla, and then he asked me to dance and my friends were taking pictures. And, fast forward, I performed at the premiere. I went up to him. There were loads of paparazzi taking pictures. He said, how are you, Rozalla? I remember you. How are you? Yes, we had a dance on Sunday night. And till today, I cannot find any picture of myself and Mr. Al Pacino.
Oh no! Lost
there you go.
With the picture of Sting somewhere, isn't it?
I know Sting somewhere. I know it's up in the cloud. Now that we know there's a cloud. Oh my gosh!
Now, talking of huge stars, you were obviously the opening act for the European leg of Michael Jackson's Dangerous tour. You were on the same record label as him at the time, Sony. So, did you know you were in contention for a supporting slot with him, or did it sort of come out of the blue? How did that kind of all work out? How did that happen?
Well, when I signed to Sony, it was when Everybody's Free, Are You Ready to Fly, Fate and the Power of Love was so massive across Europe, and they signed me on because of that and took over that whole catalog and etc. And Michael was looking for a big dance artist that was happening across Europe. And it was myself, and I don't remember what other artists they sent Michael the videos of. And I remember being in New York at the Sony offices being told Michael Jackson had chosen you personally, so you better get on the next flight and start rehearsals. And my jaw hit the floor. I mean, I grew up in school loving the Jackson 5, and then they became the Jackson, and then Michael Jackson became who he is in his own right. And to be a support act years later, me, this girl from Africa that grew up on a farm with my grandparents, oh my gosh. And we ended up doing, I think it was 43 dates across Europe for about 3.5 months, I can't remember. And that, to me, Matt, will remain as one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah,
for sure.
And this is when Michael Jackson was arguably his biggest ever. I mean, what was it like just being a significant part of that tour?
Surreal, absolutely surreal. Going on stage at Wembley Stadium, 75,000 screaming fans. I remember we performed in Paris. I can't remember the name of the stadium, but I think most stadiums held about 75,000 people. I was told that this particular stadium, the fans had either burnt the gates down or broken the gates down to get in, and they ended up being 100,000 fans, and they didn't want to mess the thing in case they, started reacting and rioting. And I remember going on stage and looking across on top of their heads because I was high up. They all looked like I laughed to myself, like a squashed tin of sardines moving, swaying from side to side very slowly. It was just incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable. How closely did you end up working with Michael, and what was that like, and what was he like? Do you have memories of that?
Yes, we met a few times. We took official photographs, and he was so lovely, and we had a chat. And, I thanked him for choosing me, and he said, "You're welcome, Rozalla." Whenever I drive into the stadium, because he'd come on stage 30 minutes before my set. He said, I hear the fans screaming, and, I love your songs. And he was so nice. He was really, really lovely. And we took pictures. And then I think it was the last gig that I did in Portugal. I wanted to say thank you to Michael. And just before I was going into his dressing room, I just said, "Michael, I just want to thank you." He gave me a hug. And I said, "No, you have to give me a kiss." And he was like, "Yeah, okay." So he gave me a quick peck on the lips, and he gave me a hug. And I just said, "Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much." And he's like, "You're most welcome." And he wished me the best. And he was really nice. He was really, really wonderful person.
Was there a time as well when you performed at Wembley and he was having issues with his voice and cancelled the gig while you were on stage or something?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah, I think we did two nights or 3 nights at Wembley. And one of the gigs at the 11th hour, I was just coming off stage. And as I came off stage, security literally pulled me. And I thought, what is going on? I had such a fright. Didn't even talk, pulled me straight and put me into the tour bus, and we drove out the stadium. And they were worried because Michael had announced at the 11th hour that the show wasn't going to go ahead. And, I was there, I did my thing. And so they were worried that there would be a riot and a few cans got thrown in the stage and blah, 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 but nothing serious. And then, of course, I remember when I first met Michael, he asked me, "Rozalla, how do you look after your voice?" Because he's doing these gigs. It was such hard work. The traveling, the doing gigs after gigs and having 1 day's rest for your voice is just impossible to rest it, And I didn't know. All I know is that, the old tricks of drinking warm water or squeezing lemon juice and honey in it. But ultimately, I now know that, the best thing for your voice is to rest it completely, which is difficult to do when you're on tour, But I don't know. How do you manage that? It's each to their own. Just maybe steam up or lemon and honey, or just keep quiet, But he asked me that. So, yeah, I thought, wow, the great Michael Jackson went through that as well. So there you go. We're only human. He's only human.
Pretty good to be asked advice by him as well, isn't it? Quite a compliment.
I was blown away. Honestly, I was blown away.
And some of his fans at the time were quite intense, weren't they? Did you have any issues with them on the tour at all?
Oh my God. There were 5 fans. I remember counting 5 because News of the World wrote an article where they lied and said, Rozalla said she and Michael Jackson are like 2 ships passing in the night. He's not even asked to meet her. And that was at the very beginning of the tour, So I was worried that, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. So I sent Michael a balloon, a teddy bear, and a card explaining to him I did not say those things. And he sent a message back with his manager or someone, I can't remember, saying, "Tell Rozalla not to worry. I'm used to how the press portray me in this country." I thought, oh, wow. But these 5 particular fans didn't take kindly to that. And when I'd come on stage, they'd be pulling faces, they'd be doing fingers, and I've got 75,000 screaming fans, except these 5 who would run to the front of the stage or the barrier as soon as the gates opened. And I remember telling Michael's security guards, they were like 6'4", and they're like, "Don't worry, just go on stage and do your thing." And lo and behold, as I got on stage, these fans all started giving the finger and just being really aggressive. And it was like watching James Bond. These two security guards jumped into between the barrier and the stage and went to these fans, and whatever they said for the rest of the gig, when I came on, they would just look at me or put their heads down, and then years later, which is so funny, two of these fans came up to me at two separate gigs. I didn't know who they were because I wouldn't recognize them. And both came to explain who they were and gave their profuse apologies and said they were just taken in by the madness of being such, deep fans of Michael Jackson, and they realized how they hurt me, and I appreciated that one of them even follows me on Instagram. But one of them, a female, was really crazy, and they told me she actually went a bit loopy. Yeah. She loved Michael so much, and she was the craziest of them all. Yeah. So
yeah, wow. And I believe you have a few A-list celebrity anecdotes from that time as well, don't you? Was there an encounter with Liz Taylor, maybe, and maybe a story about Diana Ross as well?
Yes, well, Liz Taylor, oh my gosh, she was married to, I believe it was Larry Fortensky at the time. Right. And because I had my AAA pass, I could watch Michael from anywhere, I suppose. And I wanted to go into the middle of where the sound was of the stadium. So I went there, security took me there. And then in there was Liz Taylor with Larry Fortensky watching Michael Jackson. And I was, oh my, I just could not believe it. She had this beautiful black hair. And at the time, I didn't realize it, which I love them now, skinny black jeans and a beautiful, sequin jacket. And then she and Larry Fortensky were leaving, and I thought, oh, I'm going to leave and follow them as well. And right next to the sound booth in the middle of the stadium came this limousine. And I didn't know. And they went into the limousine. And I was going into the limousine as well, because there was nowhere else for me to walk. And I saw them and I thought, oh, no, this isn't for me. And I apologized, so sorry. And I came out of the limousine quickly, and so that's what happened with that. And then with Diana Ross, it was in Norway. And we met her beforehand, and she was really lovely. And we took pictures with her. And when I got off stage, she's like, oh, you guys were great, and blah, blah, blah. We took pictures, again. And the very next day, I was at the airport in departures, and I saw this lady with long hair, and I was like, gosh, that's Diana Ross. And then she turned around, and I had my hand out to shake her hand. I said, hello, Miss Ross, remember me? Yesterday I supported Michael Jackson. She completely ignored me and just carried on walking. And yeah.
What a diva. Blind.
Yeah, what a diva.
And Michael Jackson isn't the only big singer you've been on tour with, is he? More recently, you supported Billy Ocean as well. What was that like?
That was to support the brand new version album that I was telling you about. Mm. And he's such a wonderful man, a wonderful voice. And each time Billy came on and sung, it was a case of, I know that song. I mean, wow, incredible. And so I had the opportunity to do 53 dates with him. But in between there, we had a period of about a 2 months break, and we continued. And I had Simon Lowry playing piano, John Jackson on drums, and Alexis Contouris on bass. So it was just me and this 3-piece band. And that was a wonderful experience because, I had nothing to hide behind. Whereas today, when I got into club dates, I think you can say the punters are, maybe a little bit tipsy. So I feel sort of safe. Even if I hit a bum note, they're not going to really care, but I think they do. But this was just me and the three-piece band, and it was just such a great experience.
Yeah, wow. And coming back now to your new music again, we talked about I Want You Back at the start of the interview. that's from your new album that's coming out next year, isn't it? So what can you tell us a bit more about the album?
What we've done here, this album's got a different mix of songs that we've done that were released in the 70s, that we've redone. I've co-written a couple of tracks, 2 or 3 tracks. And of course, some songs were written for me for the album. So we've got a different mix of tunes on there. And I'm so excited. And we hope to have this album out sometime this year. So like I said, I just got the one more track left to record and to fix a bum note in one of the songs that I did. And I'm so excited, to have this opportunity to release this album. And I believe there's a further few more singles on there to be released. Yeah.
And there's already been other singles from the album that people can already find, can't they?
Yes.
On YouTube and all the digital streaming platforms. Turn on the Lights, Magnificence, and I Feel It Slipping Away.
Yes.
I love the lyrics to Turn on the Light as well, because they're kind of semi-autobiographical.
Yes. In fact, I co-wrote that song, and that is biographical about my life. In fact, it was my husband's idea. He's like, why don't you write a song about, as much as you can in lyrically for Turn on the Light. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's about, talking about my life in the business. Though sometimes I might feel down and I want to give up. When I go out there on stage and the lights are turned on and the fans are screaming, that is what keeps me going. So turn on the light. And in fact, I'm thinking of a title for the album, which I haven't got, and that is a contender.
Right.
That is a contender. Yeah. Without giving too much away, Matt.
Okay. Yeah. I'd love an exclusive, Rozalla. I'd love an exclusive.
It's exclusive. But we'll see. Yeah.
And I Feel It Slipping Away is a track written by a man called Lamont Dozier.
Yeah.
What can you tell our listeners about who he is and the other artists that he's written for?
Gosh, when you Google Lamont Dozier, I believe he's now in his early 80s. He is considered songwriting royalty. He used to write for all the acts back in the day, from the Motown days, Diana Ross, used to work with Berry Gordy. I mean, the list is endless. Honestly, he is quite like, wow, you'd be quite shocked. And I believe because he how the song came about was through someone that worked at PWL, Phil Harding, I believe. And he's been in contact with Lamont Dozier. And I Feel It Slipping Away, I don't believe was released as a single. It was just a demo. And we loved it. Phil said to Gary, I think Rozalla would do well. And the track was sent to Lamont Dozier, and I believe he's not well. He's doing okay, but he's not well. And he sent back a message through his wife, which touched us all. And he just said, I'm so honored that you've done the song, all at Energized Records. And I'm so honored Rozalla has covered it. Thank you so much. Lots of love, Lamont Dozier. For me, that was a cherry on the icing. I mean, wow, that was just massive.
Fantastic. What an honor.
Yeah.
And finally, Rozalla, to bring the interview kind of full circle, we talked at the beginning about how you started out in Zimbabwe, and you fairly recently you received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Star FM, I think, which is it the biggest radio station in Zimbabwe,
yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
How did it feel to be recognised with such a grand accolade like that?
Oh my God! Well, first and foremost, Matt, I have to say high five to you, because you've done your homework on me here in this interview. I'm so impressed. Coming back to the Lifetime Achievement Award, I was awarded that last year, and one of my friends, in fact, it was Kelly from the Rusiki brothers, because we were in touch, said the CEO from Star FM has awarded you, the station and the listeners have awarded you with the Lifetime Achievement Award and is trying to get in touch with you. I thought someone was pulling my leg. You know, I thought, no, only Madonna receives Lifetime Achievement Awards, not me. Who am I? And anyway, lo and behold, Comfort in Bafana got in touch with me and is like, no, you've been voted Lifetime Achievement Award by the listeners of Star FM, which is the biggest station in Zimbabwe. And I felt so emotional because for me, it felt like going round full circle again. I started my career in Zimbabwe. I'm now in the UK. I've been here for nearly over 30 years, actually, yes. And now Zimbabwe, my home country, has given me the recognition. In fact, I did cry. I felt so emotional and so humbled. And, you know, sadly, because of the COVID, I couldn't fly home and accept this award in person. They couldn't do it as, you know, a show with all dressing up and going there, glam, which has been so beautiful. But they did it in such a way which was so amazing, you know, having the two presenters give the artists their awards and stuff like that. And wow. So I guess when I go home to Zimbabwe, I'll receive the actual award in my hand and there'll be pictures to be taken. But that really touches my heart that I've been given some kind of recognition in that line with my music, because the way I look at it, Matt, I just see myself as having a career that I've always wanted to. I don't feel I've reached the pinnacle of my career, which is crazy, I suppose. I still feel there's so much more for me to do. And I think that is what keeps my hunger and what keeps me going, is my love and my passion to keep reaching out in what other songs are there for me to do, what other shows are there for me to do, you know, and then get recognized in this way is just, thank you, God.
Yeah, brilliant. So if listeners want to keep up to date with when the album's coming out and well, depending on Omicron, what gigs you have coming up and so on, where can they find all that info out online?
You can find me on Instagram, Rozalla B. You can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Twitter, and also my label, Energize Records. Yeah. Fantastic.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Rozalla. You're an absolute legend, and I'm a huge fan. So it's been wonderful having you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You touched my heart. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks, Rozalla.
And can I take this opportunity also, Matt, to wish you health, happiness, and success for 2022? And you look after yourself. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want you back. I want you back, back, back. I want you back. I want you back, back, back. When I woke up in the morning, you were gone. How were we supposed to work and get along? I'm so tired of all the fighting going on. I just wanna be with you, with you, with you. Time waits for no one, they say. I keep telling myself I'm so tired of fuss and fighting, 'cause it's bringing us down. Let's break away. Let's break away. Oh, I want you back, back now, back in my life. For the good, for the bad, we can survive. No holding back. Now that you're back in my life, no holding back.
That was the Frank Blythe mix of I Want You Back by Rozalla. And earlier we heard the original radio mix and part of the Doganov remix. I love all of those tracks, and the remixes in particular I think are really, really cool. And you can find them all on all the major streaming platforms right now. And you can also support Rozalla by voting for I Want You Back on Mike Reed's Heritage Chart by visiting heritagechart.co.uk. I really enjoyed my chat with Rozalla. I thought she was delightful to speak to, and it was an honour to talk to her about the fantastic career she's had, from touring with Michael Jackson and Billy Ocean to recording one of the greatest dance tracks of all time. A very big thank you goes out to Rozalla for speaking with me and talking so openly and candidly about her career. Thank you once again to all of you guys for listening, and a massive thanks to everyone who supported the podcast by giving it a 5-star rating wherever you listen to it, and leaving those positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and iTunes that help to get us seen and heard by more people. Please, if you can, tell your friends about the podcast. If you can share it on social media, I'd be very grateful, and I know each and every one of the artists I've spoken to on the pod will be so grateful too. I'll be back soon with more interviews with our favourite artists and bands from yesteryear. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram at Mega Music Memories and on Twitter at Mega Memories. Give us a follow, say hello, tell us what you think about the interviews. What are your favourite memories of the guests we've had on the podcast so far, and who would you like me to interview going forward? Thank you once again for listening. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any new episodes, and I will speak to you all again very soon for more Mega Music Memories.